April 30th, we have 3 stories today. The first one is Governor Newsom, California. He ordered all the beaches to be closed. Now, even at this point, the end of April 2020, we knew how incredibly stupid this was to close the beaches. Remember a couple weeks ago, we were looking at Paddleboard Joe. Forgot it was Malibu Joe who was out on the paddleboard and got popped. And here, this was the official decree to close all the beaches. And if we look back on the last year of all of the embarrassing, obviously stupid, dunderheaded, slap-worthy crap that these authoritarian dumb dicks did in all of this for God knows who knows what reason. Like, there is zero data, zero science, zero common sense, zero anything that supports closing the frickin' beaches. You idiots. You absolute idiots. And then cue the next 9 months of the media running beach pictures. People on the beach with these headlines of like, super spreader imminent. None of those things ever came true. None of those predictions ever came through. And closing the beaches, closing the parks, closing the trails, closing the outdoors. Is this legally prosecutable? Can we somehow file a class action against these idiots? Because holy shit, this was the height of the stupid. And there was a lot of stupid. April 30th, story number deuce. Once again, the job reports came out. Over 30 million now unemployed. There's nothing really to say about this. I was posting these job numbers every week, and as they came out, because they kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Totally predictable, but nobody seemed to care. This idea that you have to break a couple eggs if you're going to make a safety omelet. How many eggs, guys? How many eggs? You know, and what's funny is at this point, I started to know personally people who were in favor of lockdown, and at this point were starting to get dinged. They were starting to get unemployed. They were starting to take haircuts at the office. They were starting to see firsthand. And the cognitive dissonance involved and on display was amazing. Because you had a couple people sort of be like, oh my God, I was wrong. This is crazy. What are we doing? I just lost my job. But unfortunately for us, most of the people, once again, shrugged their shoulders and chalked it up to, you know, we have to do it this way. And again, who said? Who decided? I still have not figured that out. Who decided that this was okay? Not me. Because this is obviously not okay at all. And April 30th, story number 3. This guy, Cuomo, is on the picture here. But the story was about the general idea that we had supposedly prepared for something like this. And newsflash, nobody prepared. Specifically, our governor, Grandma Killer Cuomo, had actually blown our budget for ventilators, which again, we figured out we shouldn't be using. But I think even at this point, that wasn't settled. But he had also like misappropriated the money. There was money, and a lot of governors did this, right? And apparently this is like fairly common practice among these douchebags. But they were given a lot of money from the legislature to do X. And in this instance, it was to prepare for a pandemic. And again, we gamed this stuff out, right? And like clockwork, all these people just spent the money on something else. And, you know, again, I guess, you know, the ventilators, it's a good thing we didn't spend the money on them because they were just killing people. But the lack of PPE, lack of other stuff that we did not stockpile was a problem. And what was also a problem here was the lack of the media kind of caring about this. This was one of the few articles. It was on ABC News, which is fairly mainstream, right? But there weren't a lot of follow-up questions about this. Hey, why did you blow all our stockpile money on renaming the Tappan Zee Bridge after your pop? Just like the pandemic playbooks that we threw out, in favor of panic. These pandemic playbooks, these stockpiles, these plans were formed well before Trump. And the people that planned them, the Cuomos, the Obamas, they messed them up. They didn't do it right. They blew the wad. And here we are. These bureaucrats, these creatures of government, once again, made demonstrably bad decisions and were not held to account for it. And they're still not. When's the last time we talked about this? Do we think that New York would have been better off had Andrew Cuomo not blown our pandemic fund on non-pandemic stuff in the last few years? Yeah, we can say that with a straight face. Absolutely. We had a lot of death here in New York. A lot of it because of the mistakes that this guy made. Man, I really hope that history's paying attention.